thank you one and all for attending this year's 37th annual conference. Per usual in this role that I've taken up the last couple of years, I have some housekeeping that helps us inform of how we have a better experience here. This is going to be the full house. We're going to stretch the capabilities of this particular facility. So please be patient with all the different things that are going on at the conference. There's about 500 people that are going to be here at some point over the next 2 days. I'd like to thank our sponsors this year. This is one of the things that's so interesting in the almost 18 years I've been at NORML, is watching how much things change in the marijuana law reform movement. So we have 3 local sponsors: Harborside Health Center in Oakland, Oaksterdam University, Berkeley Patients Group, and we have 2 groups that have a national scope on their reform and their business models, and that's the THC Foundation and Cannabis Therapeutics, though they're based in Colorado, and they're all great examples of the maturation of the marijuana law reform movement. It is lunch on your own today, so since we're kind of out on this spit, sticking out in the bay, they've set up buffets out there, so we should be able to get through lunch fairly quickly today, so don't hesitate to get right into lunch. After, of course, the 4:20 break, we're all over. We leave this particular facility, and we go to where we were last night, which is Building 4. So for those who didn't get in last night, and just to get over to the building, it's really simple, even though this is kind of an interesting night on campus. Follow the golden road. There's a golden path that goes right over there. Just get on it and get up to the floors there. And we'll have 3 breakout sessions. Tonight, we meet at 7 o'clock for our auctions and awards. We're going to celebrate the lives of our fallen friends who have passed away this year since we last met. And of course, there'll be good food and drink. And we'll have a silent auction until High Times Recusant gets there. Then it gets really loud. Saturday night. Saturday night is going to sell out. So if you want to attend, please get your ticket at NORML's table or at the Harborside Health Center one up in the vendors room. I should acknowledge that upstairs is where all of the vendors are, right above us. Please check out their wild exhibits. And Saturday night's going to be great. Great entertainment, Los Marijuanos. And just by a show of hands, how many people have seen the Extra Action Marching Band? Okay, well.
Don't miss it.
Everybody else, if you don't raise your hand, if you didn't raise your hand and you can afford to go, you really need to go. And unfortunately, you do have to be over 21 years old. It is an incredible event. So please procure those tickets. It's going to sell out. Sunday, for those, this is again a good example of the maturation of the marijuana law reform movement. Oaksterdam University has partnered with NORML's legal committee, our group of 500 plus lawyers around the United States. And Sunday is a session only on medical marijuana, the legalities of it, the best practices that we know it to be to date, and then Oaksterdam University is going to open up their faculty to what they do, which is everything to how do you be a bud tender, to how do you further cannabis law reform through the normalization of it. It's going to be a great one-day seminar. There's about 125 people who have already signed up. We don't think the room can hold more than 175, so if you want to attend that, also please sign up early. We might increase the size of the room if we have to, but we didn't think it was going to be as popular as it was. And by the way, for the $115 that it costs to go to that, I believe, you get thousands and thousands of dollars of free legal advice you could never get in any room at any time. So it is really worth a while. My brief introductory remarks, they always are, because I spend the whole year sort of in a one-way communication out, press releases, podcasts. So for me, conferences are hearing from everybody else, hearing all the great knowledge and all the great things that they're doing. But the theme this year that the board came up with, It's Not Your Parents' Prohibition, really is a multi-tiered theme. Steve touched upon it. I mean, the comparison between alcohol and cannabis prohibition is stark. You really couldn't get arrested for alcohol, only for the sale of it without paying a tax. You could use it, you could give it to a friend, you could use it as a religious sacrament to be sure. You could even have it prescribed to you. Up to 2 cases of beer a day or 2 quarts of wine per day could be prescribed to you. And I collect these. I have these in NORML's archives. So it is so clearly different. I would take alcohol prohibition in a minute today compared to how deep and entrenched marijuana prohibition is. As Steve touched upon, some 872,000 arrests, 20 million arrests in the last 70 years. And by my calculations, by 2010 or 2011, we will be arresting 1 million people in the United States per year on marijuana charges, and again, 90% of them for possession only. It is an abject failed policy. So, alcohol prohibition, our grandparents certainly lived through prohibition, but it's nothing like what we're living through. It is so much harsher and more expensive. They really cannot be compared. But look where we are today. The metrics, if you will, to use in shorthand, the metrics of the movement. Just generally speaking. I mean, if I was doing my PowerPoint, I would just the chart, just an upward trend. Everything. More members, more web page hits, more podcasts, more supporters. This isn't just for NORML. This is for all groups across all the reform spectrum. We are winning the public forum debate. We just have to bridge the gap to the policymakers. That is clearly what needs to be done. That's what NORML and all the other groups really are doing, is bridging that gap between our elected policymakers and where we clearly know, as Steve indicated, from the polling, the American public does not support prohibition. Now, we do see a terrific 35% gap in the polling between decrim, around 70 to 75% of the American public support that, but only about 36 to 40% of the American public support legalizing marijuana. So you clearly can see from that data set, we have a lot more work to do. But everything, the metrics, letters to the editor, columns, editorial boards, all of it trends upwards and in our favor. Reform movements, next to an Obama rally, are the biggest public forums, the biggest public protests in the United States. If you don't believe me, go up to Seattle next year and check out the 300,000 people there, and go to the 50,000 person rally in Boston, and the tens of thousand person rallies all around the United States. Those just happen to be the two big premier ones. You know, even though we're not seeing, as I had anticipated in this presidential election, we're not seeing the culture war over the baby boomers and the World War II generation, even though that is in fact what's being pitted. The baby boomers, whether society likes it or not, for good or bad, I happen to think for good, their mores and values, they're going to take over, as they should, in their maturation. They will be taking over the institutions of our government and society for their tenure, 10, 20 years leading them. And then behind them, my generation. And behind them, the blessed 150 young people who are under 25 who will be attending here. So all of this is trending in an upwards direction, that is clear. NORML is assiduously nonpartisan, as it has to be. But I can certainly say from an analytical point of view, it is clear if Barack Obama is elected president, we have a much better chance towards reform. If the 40 to 60 seats that are picked up by the Democrats as they anticipate, there is going to be a much better environment for reform, much better than any of us have seen in 35 or 40 years, since Keith was holding some parties in Washington. I think this time I'm not going to hold any parties in Washington.